Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the July edition of Slack Africa's webinar with the theme Smarter Recruitment, Balancing Strategy, People and Purpose in the Gaming Industry. I am Olafadike as usual, and I am going to be serving as your moderator for this conversation. Now, in a sector as dynamic and fast evolving as the gaming industry, the ability to attract, retain, and grow the right talent has become not just a matter of competitive advantage, but also compulsory for business success. Today, we have brought leading HR professionals who practice, beyond the industry and also in the industry to explore the shifting dynamics of recruitment in gaming, from aligning people with purpose and strategy to tackling high turnover, building local capacity, and shaping careers in a space that many consider transitional. Now, whether you're an operator or a talent manager, or you're simply passionate about the future of people in gaming, today's discussion hopefully will offer practical insights and provoke fresh thinking. We'll hear from our experts very shortly. I'll hand over to them. But before we dive in, just a quick reminder to our attendees that you can use the question and answer, the Q&A function. You find it on your screen, to share your questions, comments, and reflections on this topic. And we will do well to take as many questions as time would allow. Also, do not forget to participate in the polls as we launch them. It will be good to know what your perspective is and what your thoughts are. So now let's get started. I have two seasoned HR practitioners to discuss this topic today. First, Kiki Boboye and Boluwatife Sarumi. You're both welcome, and thank you so much for making time to be here today. So the way it's going to go is they both have presentations to make, so we'll give them some time to do that, about 20 to 25 minutes each to make their presentation. As they're making the presentations, if you've got comments and questions, please do well to drop them in the chat and then in the Q&A, and we'll be sure to pick them up and then ask them after their presentation. So without much ado, let me introduce the speakers. First, I would read their profiles. I'll start with Boluwatife Sarumi. Now, Boluwatife is currently the head of human resource at Brandstar Limited, popularly known as NairaBed. She has over a decade experience in strategic, operational, and talent management across various industries, not just the gaming industry. She's also an experienced cross-functional team player who's versatile in workforce planning, organizational development, change management, and business-driven HR practices. She's a champion of cultural transformation, performance management, leadership development, and data-driven decision-making. I'm not surprised to know that, she's a champion of data-driven decision-making, given that her background is in information technology. She is also a certified senior professional human resources manager. Right. Welcome, Boluwatife, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Right. So our second speaker for today is Kiki Boboye. She is also the head of human resource and training at KC Gaming Nigeria Limited, that we all know as Bet Niger. She's got over 15 years HR experience delivering value in UK public, private, and not-profit institution. She's also a seasoned lecturer delivering, she's a seasoned lecturer delivering Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development intermediate model with distinction. I mean, over the course of her career, she has pioneered the setup of the Beth Niger HR function, driving key initiative in organizational development, change management, and employee engagement. Her background is in law, incidentally, and she's also a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development in the UK. She's also an aspiring, a budding in training executive and life coach. When she's not working, you'll mostly find her spending time with family and entertaining guests. She loves to read and she loves watching movies. Welcome, Kiki.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you
very much, Fadike.
So much.
The pleasure. Yes.
Yes. So as we can all see, I mean, without any doubt, we have professionals, seasoned persons, you know, on today's webinar. So I'm going to hand over very quickly to Bolu Atife for her presentation. She's going to be talking us through aspects of HR, personnel management, talent management. The floor is yours, Bolu Atife.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be on this call. Okay, so today we'll be talking about smarter recruitment and balancing strategy, people, purpose in the gaming industry. And for me, I believe that smarter hiring happens where people, passion, and purpose collide. Next slide. Okay, so why do we need smarter recruitment in the gaming industry? In human resources, as we know, there has been a lot of changes in the HR system. Ideally, when we were growing up, or if we go to any organization, you believe that the HR is just there for recruitment. You believe that the HR is just there for hiring and firing. However, in this period that we're in, it's a different ball game entirely, especially with the fact that we have a lot of talents that are then moving from Nigeria across board, traveling out. There's a reason why we require to have smarter recruitment in the industry. So for me, I would say that smarter recruitment is essential in the Nigeria's gaming industry to actively build a skilled and sustainable workforce that we can capitalize on growing the demand and cultural opportunity. Smarter recruitment basically prioritizes skill-based assessments, internship, mentorship, and collaboration. By shifting from purely credential-based hiring approach to a proactive upskilling strategy, it is going to make us address the critical skill gaps and build long-term capacity. So in the gaming industry, we've moved on from just doing the basic, where people just come in, we send in CVs, we post our adverts, and then we just do interviews. There are so many levels now to having smarter recruitment in the industry. We need to do skill-based assessments because of the different departments and the different roles that we have. Smarter recruitment serves as a mechanism that connects both the local youth potential and also the cultural narrative to be a viable and competitive gaming industry in Nigeria. Note that I put the local youth potential because essentially gaming is not just about being in the offices. We all know that, you know, we have gaming centers across board in Nigeria. So what are the challenges in the gaming industry? I've put together key challenges that we have faced as recruiters in the gaming industry. Number one will be the limited talent pool. So we have a shortage of skilled and experienced game developers, artists, and designers in Nigeria. Essentially, to get tech people, to get the social media to get product managers in Nigeria has been a lot of stress. So we have a limited talent pool, not to now talk of, okay, coming into the gaming industry. Secondly, we have low awareness and interest in the gaming career. A lot of people lack awareness of gaming as a viable career, leading to low participation. I don't know about any other person, but for me, when I say I'm working in the gaming industry, there's this smile, there's this look, and sometimes there are comments where people say, how do you feel? What does your conscience tell you? Knowing fully well the kind of industry that you're working. So when you say gaming, sometimes they're like, gaming, what do you mean by gaming? While some people feel like, oh, why can't you just say betting? You know, so we have low awareness when it comes to our industry. Then we also have inadequate infrastructure. There's poor internet, there's inconsistent electricity, there's limited access to developmental tools that hinder productivity. And when I talk about the inadequate infrastructure, it's also because, you know, things are changing and a lot of people are beginning to move, you know, the gaming industry to online. So we have this inadequate infrastructure that also affects us. And then we have poor attraction of international partnerships or clients. So we have a lot of trust and credibility issues that make it difficult to secure global collaborators. I'm going to get into that as we speak on. We also have the challenge of retention and competition. So for talented individuals, once we have them, they usually leave for better paying tech jobs or freelance opportunities. We also have diversity of roles. There's an imbalance with a shortage of specialized roles like product management. So how do we overcome the challenges and balance people and purpose in the gaming industry in Nigeria? We can build a balanced strategy through the following process: by building talent pipeline and increasing industry awareness. So for the challenges that I'd mentioned in the past slide, I mean, we're going to get to a point where we would need to discuss further. So I wouldn't want to take a lot of our time breaking down into that. And that's why we're going to how to overcome the challenges before we then go back to having conversations that cover the challenges majorly. But one of the first things that we can do to balance the strategy is to build a talent pipeline and increase industry awareness. How can we do this? We can do this by partnering with universities. We can do this by having boot camps, by having gaming hubs and events like the Lagos Games Festival or local tournaments to tap emerging talent and build pipelines. So for this, a lot of organizations, I mean, we hear of FMCG, we hear of oil and gas that go to partner with universities. I mean, before people graduate, they're already there going to go and have their peaks and ensuring, you know, you're giving brand visibility, you're giving industry awareness to young talents that, okay, this industry is available and then you can come into it. I know that some other organizations, we also do CSR in order to have some sort of industry awareness by having festivals or local tournaments. So these are things that we can do to be able to tap into the emerging talents. We can also have gamified recruitment and branding, which is we use challenges or game-like assessment to engage candidates in order to attract creative minds. We have games like this, but not necessarily for recruitment. I don't know if anybody has had Kahoot. We should have heard of Kahoot. A lot of HR people use it for employee engagement, you know, where we have in-house conversations and people have to tap to respond to the questions. Yes, exactly. So if we can just make it as a recruitment pattern, we have psychometry exercises and tests that people do. But in the gaming industry, if we can tailor to suit this game or tailor to suit this assessment where it becomes interesting, you go for an interview or you apply for a role in the gaming industry and, you know, you hear candidates talking about it like, oh, I haven't had this type of assessment before. You know, I had to do it like a game. Using challenges or game-like assessments, engage candidates in order to attract creative minds. So for role clarity and skill-based hiring, if we can also overcome challenges by doing this through our job ads and job description. our job ads and job description need to focus more on purpose, not just task. I know that essentially we just want to fill that role. I know that essentially because of time, we just do our posts because we have time to fill. We have the hours, we have the time, we have our own KPIs that we need to meet up with. However, it is very essential that there is clarity on the job description. There is clarity. There is something that is showing purpose, that this is the reason that you're coming on board. You're not just coming to fill in the gap. It's not just a stopgap. It is that we need you for a purpose. You're here to also build yourself and also build the organization, not just tick a box. So there's also structure progression. We need to create visible career paths and progression from entry level to leadership. When we go into a new organization, essentially as leaders, one of the things we always want to do is to ask questions. I do it. I don't know if other people do it, but you want to find out what the issues are. As HR, you want to meet with the employees to understand, why are you where you are right now? Are you happy being in this organization? How can we make you better? How can we make you stay longer? Same thing with management. You want to be the balance in between, which is our role. What communication gap do we have? So for this, we need to have a visible career path and progression. When I had this topic, one of the things I had to do was to also go back to my system and find out, are you satisfied? What are the challenges you think you are also still having from when we came in, or from when I came in until now? What are the differences? What are the changes? I mean, I get this feedback every year anyway, but because of this topic, I had to do like a reminder, like, okay, what is it? And to be honest, one of the major things, that always comes up, even when we're doing, when you're also checking your competition and finding out, okay, why do you like this company better than ours? Is it the money? What is it? Most of the time, it is always about career paths, which is why we're having this conversation. It is the career path, is the fact that, okay, they believe they've been at a certain level for too long and they don't see their way into leadership. So we need to create a visible career path and progression from entry level to leadership. Also, there has to be a culture and retention plan. How do you build a culture? You need to build a culture of wins and high employee impact by offering mentorship, by offering internship, and offering fair pay, so that we can reduce the turnover and to build resilience. We need to align hires with both skills and cultural values. We need to have people-centric strategies that lower turnover and foster workplace inclusion, which leads to more innovation and diverse teams. I was having a conversation with a colleague from another industry recently, and he used to work in a bank. And he told me that that particular bank, they used to work them hard. Like every time you call, he can't even pick up his call. And sometimes he's at work from 9, he's still at work by 9 o'clock, or he's still at work by 10 o'clock. Why did he leave? The only thing that made him stay there was the parties. He said when the bank stopped having parties, he just felt that was the only thing that was making me wait in the first place. There was nothing else. You guys work us, there's no work-life balance. And the only thing that always made us happy, which was the parties, you've stopped it and then you're focusing only on work. So we need to build a culture that is people-centric. We need to want to know people and understand people while also achieving the performance on the job. All right, so why high turnover and poor retention? Which is driven by perception that the gaming roles are temporary or transitional. So this is usually the perception, especially for young talents. They believe that, the roles are temporary. They believe that roles are transitional, especially the young people. So sometimes the gaming roles are viewed as stopgaps. Some of the employees believe that the roles are not transferable to other industries and they don't consider them as careers. So when we're having our interviews and we're asking young talent, like, okay, what did you study? Where do you see yourself? Why are you here? I mean, let's have that conversation. We are not just trying to tick the box for you to come in. We also need to ensure there's longevity. And so we ask these questions. The only way that we can make sure, there's retention is to ensure loyalty. How do we ensure loyalty? We need to work on the mindset of people. We need to let them know that the gaming roles are more attractive as long as a term career. All right. Then there's also a lack of long-term vision from employers that fuel this perception that, high turnover and poor retention, these roles are just temporary or transitional is also one of the faults of the employers. I've been to, even in the gaming industry, I've worked in an organization where they were not having their yearly meetings, they were not having their yearly goals. And so your expectation does not transcend down to the bottom end. And these are things that we need to change in the gaming industry. There is lack of long-term vision. We need to stop fueling that perception. We need to be able to communicate clear career growth, and we need to upskill their paths from day one. And then lastly, before I stop, I would also talk about the negative view about the gaming industry, which I'd mentioned before. So one of the reasons why, it's being viewed as temporary or transitional is that people often misunderstand and stigmatize the gaming industry. This essentially discourages potential employees or investors from recognizing it as a viable career path or a lucrative business opportunity. I know that, sometimes when they say is betting, you're conscious, how do you feel knowing fully well that people are dying or killing themselves because they bet? We sometimes laugh it off, and I don't think that is what we're meant to do. It is an opportunity for us to teach people. It is an opportunity for us to make people understand what the gaming industry is about, not just laugh it off and say, no, we're not the ones that told people to kill themselves. So, this is what we did. The same way they're winning money from us is the same way they're the ones losing it. No, it's an opportunity for education. Why are you in the gaming industry? Why do you have a problem with the gaming industry? What do you think about the gaming industry? Is it because you heard about this? Now, let me educate you. So essentially, we need to find a way to do a turnaround from the negative view that people have to the positive. So I'm going to stop here and hand over to the moderator.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was short and sweet, just the way we like it. In her presentation, she has highlighted a number of things. We'll go through and over this. But at this point, I would like to call on Kiki to make her presentation as well. Then we will recap and go to the question and answer session.
Thank you so much, Fadike. Good morning, everyone. So I'm ready. My slides are up.
Are we having challenges with the slides? Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So thank you again for having me. I'm going to take the topic on smart recruitment from a slightly different perspective, but also homing in on some of the things that Boluwatife has talked about. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Is somebody managing my slides?
Can we go to the next slide? What's going on? Okay.
Okay, so the current state of recruitment in the gaming industry, I'm going to be looking at areas around talent shortage. And this came into effect, obviously, post-COVID. There's been a different dynamics with regards to talent in the gaming industry. If we look back a bit, we would actually think about, when we look at the gaming industry in Nigeria, although there's a perception to it, I look at the gaming industry when I think of places like how the gaming industry has evolved in America, like places like Las Vegas, and what the amount of skills and talents in those industries and the revenue generating into those communities and what they actually bring to the table. So if I'm to look at the gaming industry in Nigeria, I would look at how, I think we need to go back a slide. I think you've gone forward. I think we need to stay with the first slide. Yes. I would look at what's the current situation with recruitment in Nigeria, and we'll look at talent. So post the pandemic and the Japa syndrome, how that has affected recruitment in the industry growth and involvement. I don't think there's enough knowledge about the industry or enough understanding or insight into the industry to realize the growth, the revenue generating that it brings to the society or to the economy, the involvement and the impact of external investors being comfortable enough to come into Nigeria to do business. The following the pandemic and the way recruitment has evolved in Nigeria across the world, candidates also have different expectations. There's the issue around remote working, how virtual interviews also now impact how we do recruitment, the obvious skill gaps, and again, the economic uncertainty and how that has impacted the gaming industry overall. Next slide, please. So if we're looking at smarter recruitment, what is this? What does this mean? And what are we thinking about going forward? What does it really mean? How do we envision the industry in the next 30 years and beyond? And in looking at that, that would help us to understand how we begin to manage our recruitment. How is it evolving? We need to look a lot of in the industry today, we're looking at a lot of traditional hiring, the way we normally do recruitment. But again, if we look at data, if we look at our data inwardly and also our recruitment data, what impact has that had on our recruitment today, which gives us some kind of scope into how we recruit smartly going forward. Again, are we more people focused in our recruitment? Is it aligned to our strategy? Are we driving diversity and inclusion? And when we talk about driving diversity and inclusion, I mean how we look at the skills the people have across board and how we ensure that that's inclusive in how we do business. Are we looking over at the quality of the people that we're recruiting or the quantity of the people that we're recruiting? Are we looking at how our roles could be streamlined and so that people are working more effectively instead of people working smarter? Are we looking at are we considering technology and the recent tools that can help us drive business? Again, the need for us to be for agility, and the need for us to be adaptable, and how we leverage on technology to drive our business and to help our recruitment be more smarter. These are areas that we can consider if we're going forward. Okay, so I'm going to focus on the three pillars that were mentioned in this presentation, which is strategy, people, and the third one is purpose. In terms of strategy, is our recruitment, what are we doing with regards to our recruitment or our talent strategy? Is it aligned with our business growth? Are we forward thinking? Are we looking at the roles we currently have on board? And are we aligning them to where we currently are, business growth going forward, and innovation into the future? A lot of the roles in the gaming industry are kind of set. But again, if we are trying to compete with other countries in terms of gaming across the world, our roles need to evolve. Our strategy, our business growth, Our business strategy is the first place we look at. What are we doing with our strategy? What do we want to achieve? What are we thinking about into the future? And then we look inwardly at our strategy, our talent, and how do we align them to a forward-thinking process into the future. Again, if you then look at those roles, that would obviously help us to harness those who have the skill set and drive, and that will help us to drive that growth that we are looking to achieve overall in the industry. Are we also considering market trends, and are we leveraging on the workforce analysis? So our in-house employee engagement surveys, what information is that telling us? What information are we digesting? How are we putting apart that information, and how do we take that information and use it in aligning our recruitment strategy going forward? What's happening in terms of current market trends? People prefer to work remotely. People prefer to work across different countries. There's different we're leveraging on technology. All these things are instruments that will help our strategy in terms of when we're looking at recruiting smarter and creating that balance for the business, and also in terms of attracting the right talent into your organization. Again, if we look at people businesses are now, it's now more about the people than the business. So it's more a people's market than an employer's market. So what do we do as employers in this gaming industry across Nigeria to ensure that we consistently get the right people to grow the industry, to stay in that industry, so that industry can continue to compete at an international level? We need to ensure that we have a community, that a talent community, and that's all the necessary talent within our industry, and we can draw from that, draw from the specialisms to make sure that what we have, there isn't a skill shortage, but there's enough for us, enough people within that community that can be considered across board. So our talent community is very important, especially around all our specialism roles. That would help us keep the industry growing and vibrant, as the case may be. We need to build on soft skills. Yes. Soft skills is the in thing that is being put out there for most companies to consider. Soft skills is quite key to our industry, to the people that we are taking on and it should be engraved in our recruitment processes. It's not about asking you what you want where do you see yourself in 10 years, or what can you bring to the table. We need to actually be listening. Our scenario-based questions will give us better insight into the kinds of skills these people have, what we currently don't have within our individual businesses, what our customers are saying. All those soft skills, they will harness around soft skills, and that is quite important. Again, we should look at driving a holistic and onboarding program. And this will help our the talent that are coming in, to understand the industry, the business they're coming into, growth, and the expected success. At least people know what they're working towards. The notion would be that, you come into that organization, I didn't know much about the gaming industry, I'm here to work. But again, this would drive retention when people are given a better insight from the onboarding program all the way through. It allows the talents to settle. It allows them to begin to want to make their mark, and also allows for a better retention, as I said earlier. There's also an issue we can consider around culture add and culture fit. I'm always one that talks about best fit, but sometimes culture fit means that we're all just comfortable posting along. Culture add, especially when if we consider this in our recruitment and in the balance of what we're expecting in the industry, we will begin to see that we bring in more vibrant skills, knowledge into the business, change, difference. Yes, there might be an issue for adjustments here and there, but it means that we're not just coasting along. Culture fit we will bring in people that just work, and we will recruit people who mirror us, but we might not be doing anything different. The culture add, if we're looking at that, would allow for us to allow for change, will allow for growth and better innovation and creativity. Can you scroll the slide down a bit? I can't see the last part of the people section of the presentation, please. Thank you. No, the slide before.
It's actually encourage diversity and inclusion.
Yes, thank you. In terms of very, very important in our smart recruitment these days, most of the time you get people saying that there are roles that, oh, they're best suited to just the male gender. I think things have changed post-COVID, and with the Japa syndrome, we cannot afford to be that limiting within the industry. For us to be able to harness the right people, the right skills, the right fit into our industry, and for our recruitment to not be the norm, the old traditional recruitment, is important that we have diversities or diverse people with different skills, experience, backgrounds that actually have an interest in our industry, and that would help us drive better recruitment thoughts. So if we have questions along those lines and we are looking along those lines in our recruitment strategies, that would help us and help the industry to ensure that we have the balance of the right skills and people who are ready to walk that journey with us and help the industry grow, as it were. So the next slide is purpose. So with regards to purpose, employers need to reshape their expectation when looking at how to hire the Gen Zs and the millennials. They come with a different thought process. What we think we can do in 3 days, they would tell you they want to work remotely and they can do it in an hour. So they have different dynamics. The question is that they are the new norm. How do we encourage them and hire them into our industry? They have skill set, they have the knowledge, they're driven, but they also have some behaviors that we consider, but we might not consider quite acceptable. The idea is about employees trying to understand, having the right mentors in the business, coaches within the business to help us when hiring these Gen Zs and millennials, to be able to get them to understand the industry, where their skills best fit, and what initiatives we can put in place to ensure that we have a retention along that line. Then again, with the oldies, as it were, they come with wisdom, they come with knowledge, they come with experience. We can harness that with also with hiring the Gen Zs and millennials, and then creating an environment where, or a business environment or workforce where we have different knowledge, different skills, different experiences, and that keeps evolving across board, which means that in our recruitment processes, we've created a balance of understanding what our strategy is, understanding what our people requirements are, and understanding our purpose. Again, we also need to look at our recruitment branding. Our recruitment branding needs to be giving a message about not only the industry, promoting the industry, promoting employment within our industry, the benefits, benefits that the employees have, why our industry is actually a good area to work and to build a career. So our recruitment branding should help shape that and impact and drive that. With our recruitment and selection, it should be towards resonating with the industry. Most of the time, the people we need to hire should be people that have the same purpose and values that sit within our industry. But if you take on people that are just there to just do a job, eventually they would leave. And if they leave, it would mean that we'd probably take another 30 to 60 days to hire somebody. It's not enough to say you have passion. The question is, where do you see yourself? What do you bring to our organization? Do you understand our purpose? Do you understand our values? Do you understand what we do in our industry to make a difference in the community? And we need to understand that in our recruitment processes before we take people on. Yes, assessments, behavioral assessments could best align that. But sometimes even having a conversation with people does give you insight. I remember one of my colleagues was saying to us that they interviewed somebody, and after a few months, because of religious purposes, they did not feel comfortable working in our industry. Then the person resigned. The point about that is, had we actually asked the right questions, maybe our recruitment would have been smarter and we would not have lost that skill and then gone back to base. So it's quite important that people, what we do in our industry resonates with people and they understand our purpose and our values. Hiring should be aligned to long-term goals of the business and linked to innovation, purpose, and social impact. When I say it should be linked to innovation purposes and social impact, the industry is growing, it's evolving. And at the beginning, I said, where do we see ourselves in 30 years? So if we're taking somebody on and they're just looking for a job, doesn't mean they have the commitment, especially if we're looking at critical or particular skill set. We need to see how we can turn through those kind of creative and innovative ideas in order to drive retention within our business. Next slide, please. So what are the forward-thinking initiatives that we need to take on board in order to make sure that our recruitment in our industry is smarter and we are balancing our talent, strategy, our purpose, and our people? We're giving these three pillars due consideration. It's important that we begin to leverage on AI and our recruitment data. It's not enough for us to just do recruitment. Now we need to begin to look at that information. We need to look at those that we take on board through the recruitment process. What are they telling us after a year? What are they telling us after 6 months? What would they like us to do differently? Are they comfortable within our businesses? Do we see opportunities of growth for them? Are we creating that opportunity, that growth? If the business is growing, we're looking at our business for another 10, 20 years. What skill set does this person have? What is so unique about this employee that retaining them is quite important? And obviously, where do we utilize them within the business? Your performance management framework would actually give a better insight into that. It would give you the idea of how they're performing overall. It would give you an opportunity to understand their areas of improvement and how you can best support them. It would also give an opportunity for them to discuss areas they might want to progress to within their business. For us in Bet Niger, career progression is very important, and we've seen people from different departments move up into different roles, change careers, and that's because of those internal opportunities. As a result, we've been able to retain very key employees who have helped us to drive the business today. We also need to look at our employee engagement and how, again, does that drive retention. All this can only be done, it can only be teased out when you're also informed. So it's about how you also communicate with our staff, the surveys you put out, the feedback, and what are you doing to make that difference? And again, keeping the staff abreast of what is going on. These will all allow for the future recruitments to be smarter. It's a need to audit your recruitment strategy. If our recruitment strategy is in line with the traditional way, then we need to give it a bit of a lift in order to what is obtainable in today's market, especially when you have to interview people virtually. And you're probably only going to spend an hour. Maybe we need to consider stages of the interview, need to consider some assessments. These will give you some insight into the people that we're bringing into our industry and what their own aspirations are as well. Again, the recruitment strategy should consistently align with organizational values, which are quite important because they underpin them. We need to drive upskilling and learning, especially for our business critical roles that consistently evolve, not only within what is obtainable in Nigeria, but what are their counterparts doing in different countries. Again, if we don't upskill and keep driving learning, we would lose our critical roles to probably foreign countries who are other countries who obviously need such skills. So that's quite important. Investing in also the necessary work tools. If you don't invest in the necessary work tools, it would mean that we're not taking into account the three pillars, and obviously we would have a disgruntled and frustrated workforce. So that is quite important that we keep investing in that, investing in technology, and again ensuring that the overall recruitment culture reflects a collaborative work environment. Like I said, employees are no longer just resources; they are also the business. So with that, if our recruitment policy does not drive collaborative working, then we are actually going to find ourselves back at square one with poor recruitment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that presentation. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can see the reactions. I can see the reactions. Thank you. We to recap and to a few questions. Some of the things that have been highlighted is that there is a need to build talent dedicated to the industry to what obtains or sells. That seems to be missed the gaming industry. I mean, that raises the question, Bulu, should we be seeing that other African European countries are doing, which is going back to the basics, university, introducing courses relating to gaming, responsible gaming, product development, responsible product development, and the likes. Is that something that you think is feasible, given Nigeria's current educational? That's something you think is visible?
Sorry,
like there's a delay. Can you hear me?
Can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Apologies. So you didn't hear my question. I was just asking, wondering. Yes, a few African countries have introduced, gaming courses, gaming programs at the university level. Is that something that we should introduce as well? Is that something we should consider introducing in Nigeria? And how would that work, given the educational structure that we have? We've got the public universities, the private universities. Where do we start, and how do we incorporate these models into the educational system?
Okay, thank you very much. So I would say absolutely. It's something that we can do, and I believe it is very, very important for us to introduce it. So if we know everything that we do now is tech, it is AI, it is tech focused, and even in the gaming industry, I think one of the challenges that we have is that we do not have a lot of product management here in Nigeria. Yes, some people have started building the software, some people have started building the technologies. I mean, there's a change happening now. And so this is something that can happen. But basically still has to do with our branding, has to do with the industry branding, has to do with industry education. So we need to find a way to be able to showcase our industry. I mean, there's a lot of noise happening now. It's not just about the adverts, placement on DSTV and whatever it is that we do to get business in. It also has to do with the individuals. We need to find a way to change the stereotype of what the gaming industry is about. Once we're able to achieve that, once we're able to do, there are webinars such as this that we're having now, we can do it on a more global level, where we're talking about what the gaming industry is about. That way, we can also go to the universities, like I mentioned in my presentation, doing partnerships with universities. When we have that opportunity, we're educating talent, we're educating people. These people can go back home and tell their parents. These people can go back and tell their colleagues. When somebody raises, that guy is doing gaming, is betting. Somebody else has that better knowledge and can tell the person, this is what it is. This is what the gaming industry is about. It's not what you think. And you can learn product knowledge. In our product department now, we have people learning data analysis, people learning business analysis, because it all has to do with this. The technology part of the industry has to do with software. So absolutely something that we can do, but majorly let's just focus on industry awareness, branding, and educating people about what the industry is about, and it is very easy to achieve.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kiki, I'm going to come to you. In your presentation, you did mention that, within your organization, there's been opportunities for employees to move internally, learn new skills, and then take on roles in units, departments that are different from how they originally joined the organization. Now, one thing that I know that tends to happen a lot in the industry, and we did launch a poll and ask question, which was confirmed, is that the skill set, sometimes people come and claim they've got experiences in certain aspects or certain that they possess certain skill, and then based on that they are offered opportunities only for them not to be able to live up to the expectation, and the organization ultimately suffers for that. In your experience, have you had this kind of experience? I know you recruit internally, but have you brought someone externally, but from within the industry, and had this experience? And then how do you handle this? Because most organizations will tell me it's more or less like it's like we're stuck, with this person's.
First of all, you're not stuck. When you offer somebody employment, they have a 6-month probationary period. And within the probationary period, you have KPIs set for you. You have your line manager managing you. You came to the interview with this is what I can do, and you've come into the industry and you can't deliver. We wouldn't retain such. It would be like carrying dead weight. I'm sure you would agree with me. It's a different thing if you've come into the business and you are not familiar with using a particular tool. We would be happy to train you, as any reasonable employer should train you, develop you, harness that knowledge and drive. Not every industry expects you to know everything when you're getting into the business. However, whilst our industry is very unique, if you come to us and tell me that you know how to write, you're a product guru, we're going to expect you to come in and hit the ground running. That's a cost element to our business. Now, in 6 months, and I've interviewed you. That's why I think I said in the interviews these days, it's not the old traditional way. You need to ask the right questions. You don't have to have a bog standard set of questions. You have to ask the right questions. You have to have maybe 2 interviews to give you a bit of an insight, right? You listen to them. The listening skills are very important. The onset is also important. And then with that, if the person comes in and they're not able to deliver within that period of time, we need to understand why. If it's totally really bad, I personally would not encourage you to remain but if it's a particular skill area that you need support, we're happy to drive that. But if you cannot come in from, say, Naira Bet, for example, and come to Bet Niger and then tell me you can do product, and then you're not able to do a single product. So what exactly is the reason? Is it that you can't do it, or you don't have the tools to do it? If you don't have the tools to do it, we'll provide the support. But if you actually cannot do it outright, then there is an issue. I hope that gives you some response.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. And off the back of that, I'm going to mention, raise another concern in the industry, which is the group structure. Most gaming companies that you find in Nigeria are subsidiaries of larger, groups, or they're part of a pan-African or multinational group, which means that at the group, certain roles are retained, and it seems like there's a sort of glass ceiling for those who are recruited locally. Do you think it also impacts, for instance, in how marketing is done, how advertising is done? It has, because the group, some of these things are retained centrally, and the budget is central, and it is done to appeal to a number of countries, a number of jurisdiction, then you find out that, you know, there is a disconnect with the local team and with the local audience, because essentially we're talking about people and we're talking about strategy and the success of the business ultimately. So what impact do you think group structures generally have on local talent acquisition and retention, you know, in the gaming industry? And also, it would be good if you touch on skill transfer, especially for most operators who have to source their technology from third parties out of jurisdiction. Is there, what can we do about transferring that knowledge, the skill set that is required to the local team?
Thank you for that question. So the third parties, as you mentioned, don't have the robust knowledge of Nigerian market and what would actually be obtainable. It is for us here in Nigeria to actually have those conversations. I feel that a lot of the time we just, because they're foreigners, we just agree with them, which should not necessarily be the case. We're doing ourselves a disservice. If, for example, in the Russian space or in Las Vegas, those parts of the world, their gaming sectors have really evolved and they've couched a lot of initiatives around it. We in Nigeria should also look at that from the top end of the business to the bottom. And it's about examples that we forward. So, for example, with us in Bet Nigeria, whilst we work with our colleagues, we are very confident in what is obtainable in the Nigerian market. And that's also about the fact that we've empowered our staff, we've empowered our middle and senior leaders. We are all involved it's about knowledge of the business. You can only do that if you have knowledge of the business. So it's about how we build knowledge locally in order to be able to tell our partners that this is actually this is what we need to be doing, and being consistent with it. And for example, if we bring you a product that's not going to work in the Nigerian market, it's a waste of resources. So how do the people in Nigeria, it's about why do we need to recruit the right people in Nigeria who have the right skills, apart from the expertise, to be able to also work in collaboration with our partners, to be able to make that difference again back in the Nigerian market.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to come to you, Bolu, and then before I come to read some of the comments and questions, you mentioned mentorship, succession planning. You know, I know that your organization, just as, I mean, for both speakers, has existed for over a decade, more or less, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say that in that period, you have successfully laid out succession plans for the organization? And the people you've been working with, I mean, over the years, you've had an employee 5 years, 10 years, all of a sudden, you know, the exit, especially with the JAPA syndrome, which was mentioned during the course of the presentation. How do organizations manage, you know, succession planning, and how can mentorship sort of help in this regard? Also, I would like for you to touch on remuneration in the industry. You know, that's the elephant in the room. It doesn't seem to be as standardized as what obtains in like the banking industry, the telco industry, the oil and gas industry, insurance industry, a number of industry. There seems to be a sort of standard. But for the gaming industry, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think there is a standard, and what should we be doing, you know, in terms of standardization?
All right. So I'm going to take the salary one first. Yes. Yes, we are not. I agree. We don't have the regular standard. I mean, it's very common, and I don't know why, but when you try to find out what your competition is paying, to be able to move up, just to be sure, your employees are fine, you hear different things. For contact center, it's another amount. Meanwhile, in the banking industry, it's literally almost the same thing. It's even online. You can just check, you see what Providus is paying, you see what UBA is paying, and then of course, based on what they do, why this one is a little bit higher. But the margin is not a lot. So again, I think, yes, even though we have associations, we're not being open to ourselves. I think we still have that mindset of traditional competition happening. Meanwhile, there's competition that is exciting. There's competition that also involves a bit of collaboration. There's healthy competition. But in the gaming industry, we don't see it as that yet. And that's why we do not have that standard essentially happening for us. But is this something we can achieve? If we're being realistic, when we have all these our association meetings, when we come together, and then we have topics like this, we have, the moderation, the mindset behind Slack, talking about this conversation and telling all of us, let's be real, then I'm sure it is something that can happen. It still goes back to the industry branding. There's a lot of branding. I mean, even on LinkedIn, everybody is doing their personal branding. How much so, the gaming industry? Why can't we just come together and brand it properly? If we do this, I think it's very easy for us to have, the standard. Then when it comes to succession planning, wow, I would say NairaBet has, we've had a hit. At a point, it seemed like NairaBet was the training ground for every other betting company. They just come to NairaBet, they get the training, and then maybe Bet Nigeria is paying more, they disappear. And I think I have Madam Kiki to blame. Thank you very much for taking my, yeah, but we've tried to do succession planning. I mean, when you see a high turnover, you need to address the situation. You need to understand what is going on. But at the same time, you need to understand your capacity. I wouldn't say just because we want to have, we want to compete in terms of remuneration with a Bet Niger, I would then be paying contact center more than what our capacity can handle. So yes, that is an issue. However, succession planning still has to happen. I mean, because of loyalty. We've had people that have been with us for 15 years. Why are they not leaving? It's loyalty. It is what they've learned. It is also about how they feel about the organization. So this is where mentorship comes in. I like to do not just one-to-ones. I like to do skip, and I like to do cross departments. I mean, within the department, I like to do cross department mentorship as well, where your line manager is still your line manager and requesting for you to achieve XYZ KPIs. But then you also have another person from the other department and also a level above you that still mentors you, that is still interested in your goals. And also majorly for us, what we essentially do is paying attention to what is going on in the world. Why do we need data analysis? Why do we need to create a product management department? Yes, to be honest, the contact center can be a little bit limiting. I'm mentioning the contact center because that's usually where the turnovers are usually high. And because they feel, there's no growth, we end up doing the same thing over and over again. But this is where the hard work comes in. It is always HR. HR has to keep thinking. HR is the one that says, okay, what can I do to make this job interesting for you? Where can I move you? I mean, one of the things that she said is also something we do, where we understand this person's strength and we realize you've grown beyond the contact center and we believe you can do better. And then we then say, okay, can we move you to this department? Can you work in IT? Or essentially, we've had to create departments because of certain people and we're doing something differently. We had to work around, those people's strengths and we had to work around their intelligence. This person is very, very good at setting things that do not exist. Can we create something around this? And that's the way we've been able to work. That's the way we've been able to have people that have worked with us for 10 years, 15 years, and, you know, loyalty is everything. Not because, you know, they can't get better money, but it's the feeling that they get. It is the satisfaction that they've gotten. It is the opportunity to grow. It is the opportunity to learn. So essentially, HR is still the one that needs to think, how best can I make this happen? And again, I will still talk about the industry awareness and the branding all the time. I'm going to keep preaching it till we get it right.
Thank you. That's the plan. We keep preaching it until we get it right. It's one of the reasons why we decided that today we're going HR, we're going people management. Let's talk about some of those things. Of course, we cannot cover all this in an hour. As a matter of fact, we've overshot our time already. So I'm just going to go quickly to the questions. It will be interesting though, you know, perhaps maybe we should have another session, because talking about succession planning, we have a generation of employees coming into the market whose perspective is different. They're not very long-term oriented. You know, they want to do it quick, fast, and move on to the next thing. That's a whole other conversation. Maybe we'll have another conversation around that in terms of employee fit and things like that. But I'm going to go to some of the questions and the comments that we have here. You know, someone has suggested that we can consider starting with gaming academies and creating online courses to educate people, especially new entries into the industry. Very true. That's one gap, and that's one of the reasons why we keep having this conversation. Perhaps people will take one or two things away from it and learn from it as well. Now, someone is saying discussing transferable skills from our industry is challenging. Fintech or other industries do not give us any chance during the job recruitment. What can we do differently to get them to see the value we bring from iGaming? Oh, okay. So this is transferring skills from the gaming industry into other industries. That's the question. What can we do? See, this is part of the challenge. They're already thinking about transferring the skill they've acquired in iGaming and then taking it to other sector. Do you want to take that? Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, I thought about, funny enough, I was discussing this with a colleague of mine some days ago, and I talked about, yes, I remember, yes, just yesterday, we talked about skills within our business and, you know, staff looking at opportunities in fintech. The question is, how do they see their career within our industry? If you see, it's like when you look at construction industry, they all move around. They know each other and they all move around. So, and you can't even move around if you don't have credibility where you currently are. So the question is, what are we doing within the gaming industry to keep such talents that the fintech cannot actually poach them, so to speak? How do we harness those roles? What is so unique about them? And are they only using it in one part of the business, or can it be used in a diverse way? It's about looking at such roles within our industry and digging a bit deeper. Let's just not look at it. As technology evolves, these roles would evolve, supporting them with the necessary training, the right compensation package, considering employee engagement. Those things should help us. I mean, I can speak for ourselves that yes, those who have those skills within our industry have been loyal, and we continue to work with them. So I think it's about understanding those roles and how we can ensure they evolve within our industry so that we can retain them within our space.
Thank you. Bolu, do you want to add to that? But before you add to that, I'd just like to point out that, you know, essentially we've been talking from the perspective of the operator, the gaming business, but we forget that there's one integral, very key aspect of this industry. That's the regulators as well, the regulatory the regulators, essentially. Who becomes a regulator? Most of at the helm of affairs, usually you have a political appointee, but then the team that works with regulators, there is also a knowledge and skill requirement in that sector as well. So it's, again, we cannot conclude, we cannot discuss all aspects of human resources, but I'm just dropping that out there for those who have probably joined this session to explore opportunities, to say, oh, what are the opportunities? How can I move? I want to move to Bet Niger. I want to move to Naira Bet. Everyone is aspiring to the big brands. But what about the regulatory space? I would always, fight for the regulatory space, perhaps because that was where it all started for me, and I know, the challenges of transferring skills or, succession planning in that area as well. Bolu, do you want to, any additions, comments? Is she still on the call? Can you hear me? Or maybe we lost her. Oh, okay. So we'll just move on. It seems like Bolu is having internet issues. I mean, the thing with webinars is you don't know if it's you or the other party, but it seems like we're having internet issues. So just to recap today's session, essentially, we have talked about the fact that, very important, the industry needs to come together. Recruitment decisions, recruitment processes needs to have stronger referral system, stronger referencing system as well. Sometimes, operators are poaching from one organization to the other, and you end up getting stuck with somebody who has, sold you a tall tale because you did not bother to check referencing. That's something we have to get comfortable with doing in the gaming industry. This way, we build better and stronger personality. We ensure that skills being transferred from one organization, one person to another, is as solid as it should be. We've also talked about data analysis, the importance of data in recruitment, in decision making, especially in today's global village, especially in today's global recruitment market as well. It's very important that decisions to hire are not made just on sentiments or intuition, as it were, but rather they are made on based on what the data is telling you. If you're experiencing high turnover, perhaps you should look inwards and ask the right question, check what the data is telling you, and then move from there. We find a lot of businesses that come into this industry, and before you know it, many of them, they packed up. Why? For a number of them, I have heard that a significant part of this is the people. It's a people problem, it's a talent problem, it's a challenge that we're all grappling with. It is important now, when we talk about opportunities, one of the reasons we have this conversation is to highlight the opportunities that exist in the industry. There is opportunity for training, for mentorship, and for succession planning. Perhaps the associations could take this up, and ensure that it is conducted in a coordinated manner. Now, the industry is not immune from the brain drain that is going on, that the country, or even the continent, as it were, is experiencing at the moment. The industry is not immune. Therefore, employers and recruiters have to pay game in terms of what they offer. again, a new generation of employees are coming into the industry. It's not business as usual anymore. Employees have got to do better and have got to plan better to ensure that there's job satisfaction and that there is enough motivation for people to stay long-term and make a career in the industry. I'm just going to stop here because we're way out of time. We try to ensure that we don't go over time too much. In the absence of any more questions, do we have any more questions? I don't think so. Let me see. No, we don't have any more questions. I'd like to thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, which has been organized by SLEC Africa. We hope that the insights that we have shared have sparked valuable ideas and provided practical strategies to support your growth and transformation journey in the gaming industry. At SLEC, we remain committed to advancing impactful conversations and supporting the industry and its stakeholders with strategic, regulatory, and operational guidance. So at the end of today's session, you would get a questionnaire. Please do well to fill that for us as much as possible. We want this webinars at least once a month, to come your way once a month, and for it to be free, because we believe that this is our contribution to the industry. I am so very grateful to our speakers for joining without accepting to be part of this session without hesitation. Please leave your appreciation in the comment box for them, thanking them for sharing their knowledge very freely, very happily. Thank you all so very much. Thank you, Kiki. Thank you, Bolu.
Having me.
We truly
Thank
appreciate
you.
And from all of us at SLEC, until we come your way again, I'm just going to say, may the odds of life in all things always evolve. Thank you.
Thank you.
you very much.